Hey Miguel, good morning again. Saturday today. We touched base yesterday on a couple of things, and again, really great connecting and always hearing what's happening on your side of the world. And what I took out of the conversation the most is how much more committed you are now to begin creating with greater desire and motivation, and I guess drive, commitment to put those things in place so that you can actually step out of your job as such and actually take greater control back of your time and I guess your energy, so that you have more choice to do the things that you want, choice to spend the time on the things that you want, and all those different things, right? And I mean, that's you're playing my game now. That's exactly the space I love to live in. I want to become incredibly efficient. I want to maximize the leverage that I have, whether it is people, assets, or finance, and I want to see how to put things in place so that I feel that I'm actually creating what is really important to me. So that we already know. You mentioned a couple of things that were really important, and I said part of my job is really to support you in staying focused and aligned on what you say is important and what really is sitting there inside of you. And I think that really is like the summation of my experience of the last 2 decades of being a coach, a teacher, a parent, a chairman, all those different things. Is like, what do we need to do to really bring out the best of ourselves, unlock those limiting beliefs, and actually look at something and break through into a whole different paradigm. And that certainly has been my huge experience of the last 7 years. And of course, that's what I'm supporting so many people doing as well now around the world, right? And I already mentioned some ideas that I had said, keep thinking of these things because these strategies will help you get to where you want to get to. So here is what I had suggested, a little bit more again, just so we can unpack it a bit. I said I'd share some of those pricings for you, just so that you can also see what fits best. And we can, certainly make it happen from there. So if I recall correctly, that your sister or I think it's your sister or your sister-in-law, but I think it's your sister who's managing your properties. I think if I recall, she's a style profile. So one of the things for me that would also be really important is just also seeing into this conversation that yes, there's one thing about you creating what you're wanting and the cash flow and more of that passivity. But there's, the back of my mind is also always around the optimization and the efficiency, right? Which is very different to what your profile is and what your sister's profile is. So I'm also going to include that in my mindset of what we're wanting. Now, it's one thing to go and create wealth. It's another thing to keep it. And part of that is really making sure that you've got that optimization and efficiency built in as well, just so that when you avoid risk, avoid those curveballs that come because you didn't calculate certain things, or of course, how do you actually manage your sister who is now managing your properties as such, and how do we keep track on that? So I'm going to include that as well, right? And part of that actually is because when the client joins with me, and obviously it depends if it's business or if it's property, but I'm going to include them both in your scenario. So then they also just get access to all the other resources that I have, which I've already put online, because I've always said to my clients, I want the time that I spend with them to be specific about them and their situation, and not me spending time on something that actually they could have learned online without me being there. So here, for example, this is my one online course, which is the Ultimate Strategies and Tools for Professional Property Investors. And of course, whenever I can actually put a video together that teaches something, that means that I don't have to put my time or waste your time doing it, then it's there. So here are a whole lot of different things. There's Airbnb, there's student housing, there's multi-lets, there's management tools, a whole lot of different things here. Also moving more into the development space. You will have seen some of the different scenarios here around, moving into that development world, like what are we needing, what are the things we have to think about. So there's a whole lot of stuff here, which I know this doesn't specifically excite you being a supporter profile, but it's a resource, right? It's a resource that even your sister can actually access. And of course, it just means that there's a point of reference that we can certainly get to. The other one which you were kind of interested in is the one which is the Advanced Airbnb course. We haven't really talked a lot about this, but this one is specifically there around the professional Airbnb investor. In other words, this isn't just I'm wanting my home or I've got one apartment. It's like, what do we do when we want to scale this? And how do we really make this automated and efficient, like I mentioned, so that it's literally streamlined. All the back-end stuff is happening automatically. The cleaners are being messaged independently. You don't have to go and hold hands. So this for me is that one. And I would definitely say that, in our working together, we could certainly look at including this into our package as well as we're working with each other on it, right? If I go back to the numbers that I shared with you, I really have 3 different packages ranging from 7 to 10 or 16 sessions, and obviously the prices range accordingly. And from my side, I'm always going to push for the 16, and that is because this is a long-term relationship. You know, clients come to me with big pictures. You know, you've come to me with a vision that you want to really grow this, expand it, bring in new online passive income streams, see how you can monetize different aspects of what you're doing. So that's a big goal, right? And it requires more than just a consultation as such. And you know, my vision and how I work with people, because I really want to get to know them, I become part of their growth and their goal. You know, I stay up at night and think like, oh, Miguel's wanting to do this. How would it look? You know, like, oh, he could actually do this strategy. That would work. So I put a lot of time and effort behind the scenes into that. And therefore, I really want to make sure we've got a long-term process or a longer-term process. The main difference between the 16 and the other ones is really that the access, which is the WhatsApp messaging. And that for me is really the absolute bonus, which I think is going to be of huge benefit to you. So this is where, you know, you've got a question or you've got an insight or you've got some query, whether it's about a deal or whether it's about a new joint venture or whether it's about how you monetize something. So whatever it is, you could actually just be messaging me, and that means that I can have direct access back without us having to say, Miguel, please set up a formal session, right? And that for me is the real beauty of this, because this means there's so many things that happen in between that we can actually work on and unlock. And for me also what that does is it puts me in more of an accountability space for you, because I don't prescribe and say you need to do a session every 2 weeks. I obviously encourage a momentum. That's so important. One of the actual keys for success in property is momentum. It's when we lose momentum that actually everything starts falling apart. And that's actually the key to, I think, property investing. And in any case, achieving a goal is ensuring that we keep our momentum. But one of the things that this does is every week I usually sit down on a Tuesday, I block up my diary and I go through all my clients that have this package and I say, I wonder what they're doing. And often then I reach out and say, Miguel, you know, we were discussing about looking at partnerships, like what's happening there? Are you on the ball? What are you doing? So there's this ability for me to also keep, you know, stoking that fire underneath you so that you can keep in action and keep focused on the things that are really important, right? That's so important, is that focus and alignment in making sure the stuff happens to what you're really wanting to. As to the payment plans, I don't separate and say, well, because you're doing a payment plan and now going to cost you more, like everyone else does. I just say, here it is, this is how it splits up, and then how we actually make that work. So there are some ideas. As I mentioned, I feel that a lot of my actual work with you is going to be around opening up insights and opportunities that you have not yet explored, and then how we monetize that. So that's the part that I see is the biggest factor to you, because obviously in your mind, you have seen that like your one-trick pony, that if you keep doing this, well, that is great, but it's not giving you also what you're wanting. So I'm coming and saying, so how else can you monetize who you are and what you're doing and your relationships, and create that in the streamline of the other projects that you're working on? So you have multiple aspects and relationships that are being monetized, or projects that are involved in, with the mindset of this is what we want to create. So like I mentioned, we first sit down, we unpack the big picture, we look at the channels that create that, and then we actually start saying, okay, well, if we want to achieve this, then this is what it must look like. You want to achieve this, then this is how we've got to start positioning yourself, especially, you know, in your network and with Sappin. We've got to start actually saying, okay, if this is the role that you seem to be playing, well, how can you actually take advantage of that? Not from a negative space, but actually saying, how does this build you in what you're wanting, and really impart that sense of empowerment that you're actually going where you want to get to. So yeah, take a look at that. It would be great for us to get going. What we could certainly look at is, once we've agreed on all the finer details, we'll just sort out the agreements. We would really just go through. I would go back again and just retake you through your profile stuff so you can fully understand that better and the monetization of that. And of course, then I would start saying, right, let's actually get down into the whiteboard and bigger picture and actually see what are the things that we could bring in that's low-hanging fruit, and then, of course, the foundation that we want to start building on, so that we can actually clearly see, and you can see that, hey, these are the different aspects that you want to be working on to make it work. And obviously, I'm going to share with you then a whole lot of the tools that I use to keep myself on track, to keep myself focused, because of course I've got systems that support that, right? And there's a whole lot of stuff there that I can just literally share with you, because that will enable you to just keep that momentum going. So it would be great to touch base with you further. Anytime this next week. There's quite an open time. I'm around quite a lot and getting stuff done at the moment. I'm in a massive action, get stuff done. So yeah, please reach out. It'd be great to chat to you, and let's get this going. Thanks.